In this intermediate level project, we're going to create an engaging dynamic hamburger ad for a fast food chain. Here's the client brief. They're looking for a full page ad to go in a regional travel magazine, but they're also using some of those same graphics to create a series of digital posts and a digital ad campaign. The full page ad has the following dimensions in inches. The digital sizes will vary, but they're looking for a JPEG version of the full page ad first. They want this to focus on the popular burger they've created called the Hot and Juicy Burger. They want the photo of the burger to be the biggest element on the ad. They also want to avoid a lot of text and want the call to action to be a very simple website URL. The client does not want to use or focus on one word over the other, but to balance both hot and juicy, so people don't think the burger is too spicy or too mild. They're looking for something colorful and, of course, dynamic. So there is our quick client brief and the measurements. So let's get started in Adobe Photoshop. So welcome to Adobe Photoshop. We're going to do our first intermediate level project. We're going to create this ad together, and I'm going to assume already some basic working knowledge. So we're going to go fairly quickly creating and crafting this ad together. I hope to complete this full ad in 45 minutes or less. We're going to need a couple of photos to work with. If you don't have to use these same photos, you can use a food item of your own when crafting your own version of this ad. But at the end of this video, I'm going to challenge you to create your own fast food ad. So this is a nice juicy hamburger I found on Pexels.com. You can find that in the resource guide. I have links to all the photos I use throughout all the projects. So we have a nice juicy photo of a hamburger, and this is great because this is going to be really easy to cut and isolate out of the photo. We also have some droplets for our juicy text I thought would be neat to overlay on top of it. We also have some fire to describe the spicy, hot portion of the burger. So this is all we're really going to need is these three photos. We're going to get started with opening up a new document and making sure we have the right sizes for our ads. We were supplied with ad specs, or specifications, from our client, and this is from the magazine they're going to be placing the full page ad on. So let's go ahead and create a new document. Let's pull up our sizes. We have 3 different sizes. And as an intermediate level designer, you may have already created an ad and you're used to these terms, live, trim, and bleed. These are very standard terms. For those who are still learning and needing to kind of figure out what these terms are, the size that we really will need will be the trim size. This is the final size that you're going to see in the magazine. It's going to be a 7.875 inches or 10.75 inches. This will also be centimeters if you're outside of the United States, but the same rules apply. So let's go ahead and do our trim size. So 7.875. We can even just copy and paste and make sure we're set to inches. This is going to be 10 inches. We want to make sure our resolution is nice high resolution, so 300 will be fantastic. And we're going to have a vertical orientation. And this is where it's going to be a little bit tricky. So normally with any kind of print document, and this is going to be on a printed magazine, you would want to do CMYK color. But in our client brief, they're going to be doing a huge digital campaign with this as well. So what I've been doing lately is, instead of starting off the ad in CMYK print, I've been starting off my ads in RGB color, because RGB color is going to give you those vibrant colors you cannot achieve with CMYK. CMYK has dull colors across the board. So what we're going to do is we're going to create this in RGB, create our digital documents, and then we're going to be able to convert this to CMYK and retain better color that way than starting off as a CMYK document and converting to RGB. So that may be the opposite of what you're expecting. That's okay. This is both a digital and a print project. So let's do RGB so we can get those very vibrant colors at first, and I'll show you why at the very end why that's going to be important. So we're going to click on OK. So this is our trim size. This is going to be the trim size of the document, and we're going to need to add our bleed. This is required by the printer. They're going to be able to cut all this off so that they can mess up in printing just a little bit by 1 millimeter or 2, and it's okay. So the bleed is really for the benefit of the printer, but we need to add this in addition to what we already have. So we have our trim size as 7.875, and we have a bleed size of 8.125. So if you hash all that out, there's about a 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch bleed all the way around. So we just need to add a 1/4 inch bleed all the way around. So what we're going to do is we are going to put some guides here. So we have our rulers set on. So I went to view and I have our rulers set. So now that I can drag in some guides. So I'm dragging in guides right at the tip of this area. So just dragging them over. This is going to set our border or our trim area. So when we add the bleed, we know where the final trim is going to be for the document. And in Adobe Illustrator, this is even easier, and we'll be doing some Adobe Illustrator projects later. But this is a very photo manipulation heavy ad, so I decided to keep this in Photoshop. We're going to go to Image. We're going to resize our canvas. So click on Canvas Size, set it to inches, and now we're going to do the sizes that has the bleed. So we're going to do the bleed sizes now. So we're going to change our document to 8.125. and change it to 11. So this is going to add that 1/4 inch bleed all the way around. Click on OK, and there we have it. And we have our guides to let us know where it's actually going to be printed or trimmed, and the bleed is just extra stuff that'll be not even included in the ad, but we still need to have that for the printer. So we have our kind of our document set up, and we're ready to kind of get some of our photography in here. So you might be wondering, what is this live area? The live area is just for you as a designer to make sure you don't have vital text or photos outside of the live area, because there could be a chance it gets caught in the folding of the magazine, you know, where it bends when you turn the page. It just kind of gives you that extra margin to have so that your stuff, your really important text and photos, they don't get cut off or messed up, or you're really able to see them. So it's really not anything you have to send to the printer. It's just for you as a designer to have this rule set in your mind. So in this case, it's 7.375 and 10.25. So I can create a new document in Photoshop with those exact measurements, 7.375. So it looks like it's a 1/2 inch or an inch margin, and then 10.25. So we're going to create a new document. This is just for me as a designer to be able to toggle it on and off. I'm just filling it in with the paint bucket. So now I have just a solid shape of that same size. I'm just going to copy. You can also use guides if you want to measure it, and paste it right there in the center. And this is the kind of your margin safety area. So anything in this it can be text and photos and important stuff. Anything outside it, treat it just like you would any other margin. Just don't put a whole lot of important stuff there. So we could toggle this on and off, call this live area, and we don't really necessarily need it until we're really getting finalized with some items. So let's get to the fun part. Let's start off with the hamburger. So here's our hamburger. What we want to do is just go ahead and bring this in. I'm just going to copy. I'm going to paste that juicy hamburger in, and before I resize any photo, I want to right click and make sure that it's a smart object so we can continue to scale down and up without messing up the resolution of the photo. So now we can scale it down without pixelating it, and we need to go ahead and set a size for this. So we can go ahead and set where the client wants it really big and very prominent. So let's go ahead and put it right about this area. We want to have some room for our headline. So this is where we kind of start to plan and block out our design. And we want to bring our typography in this so we know how to balance the size of the hamburger and the size of the typography, since the hamburger and the typography are really going to be one unit here. So let's bring in our typography. I'm going to type out our basic stuff that we need that the client requested, and I'll be right back.